What's up, my hunting brothers and sisters? Today we're taking a deep dive into my bow and all my archery gear for the 2024 hunting seasons. Stay tuned. Been asked a couple times, so I thought I'd take a moment to go a deep dive into my bow setup for hunting whitetails in 2024. Right here, laying on the tailgate of my truck, is basically my bow setup, what I'm going with this year, including my arrows, my release, my quiver, and everything. And so we're going to do a deep dive into the entire setup here. All right. So first thing first, just looking at the overall setup here, I went this year with an Elite Ethos bow in 60-pound limbs, and it's set at 29.25-inch draw length. That is my bow for this year. It is actually in this green color. I think it's a very sharp color when you look at it. You know, Elite only does the black limbs, so that's, you know, black accessories go great with it. You don't have to worry about matching camouflage patterns or different shades of colors. I just kind of like it simple and clean. So that basically is the overall setup here when you're kind of looking at this. So let's take the quiver off for a second. We'll talk about the quiver and arrows and stuff later. So again, here's another look at the Elite Ethos. Again, 60 pounds, 29.25-inch draw, right-handed setup. Breaking this bow down, and I will tell you that I've paid for everything on my bow hunting setup. Yes, there's a couple industry discounts I get. If I did get something free, I will tell you, and there are two particular items. All right, so let's start with the launching system on this bow, and let's start with the rest itself. I've been using Vapor Trail rests for the last several years. Really like them. This is the Gen 7X rest here. You can see I got it with a green wrap on it. You can get all kinds of different color options on this particular rest. I got mine tied in as limb driven, and I got tied into the top limb up here with the cable drive system. Great rest. I love that it's a micro adjust capability, and for me, these just been a solid rest. I don't use their launch pad. I've had my veins hit it a few times, and so I just basically moleskin, or this is stealth strip, my arrow shelf, and that's all I do. I keep it very simple, you know, in that regard. As far as the rest of the launch system, obviously a D-loop tied in here. When we talk about getting ready to launch an arrow and the whole sighting in system and anchoring, I'm going to start here with this first year I've done it, I'm using a Bowmar nose button. I've never used a Bowmar nose button before, but I was having some anchor issues, didn't want to go to a kisser button, so I tried the nose button at the advice of a buddy of mine, and honestly, I really like it. So when it comes to peeps, my peep is the Hot Shot AccuPeep, and I do have a working relationship with Hot Shot, so I have not paid for the peep. But I've been using these peeps for a number of years, and what I like about them is they're actually tapered. So it would be like taking, basically it's narrow on your eyesight and it opens up on the front side, and it'd be like taking a red Solo cup and cutting the bottom out and looking through it from the bottom end out. And what that does is it gathers more light, and you don't get, if you look through just a straight tube peep, you can get concentric rings. You can see the in and the out, and this way you don't. You just have one circle. Really like those. That is a 1/4-inch diameter peep. No, I'm sorry, 3/16 diameter peep is what that is. So anyways, there's that. That's on the aiming system. Continuing on, like the sighting aiming system, let's go with the sight. And so my sight of choice for this year is the HHA Tetra. No affiliation with HHA. This is their Tetra, and I believe it's their new Rise Max 3 or something like that. Basically, it's a 3-pin sight, and so then I can dial it in with different pins here, And so I'm already set up with a 20, a 30, and a 40 pin. And then if I need to dial them in, basically I'm going to use my bottom pin as like, say, a floater pin if I needed to. And I've shot it all the way out to 80 yards. I mean, just shooting, I shot some 3D here a couple weeks ago. I was shooting 60, 70 yard targets. So it works out really well for all that. So I've got no affiliation. I've ran a lot of other sites over the years. I've had a lot of success with sword sites, with redline sites, HHA, a few others down the road. And I don't know, I just decided to go with HHA this year for whatever reason. Now, what you'll see on the bottom of this HHA sight and a little cord going up and into the top is a sight light. And this is an Elvish tack light. The Elvish tack light is pretty sweet. You turn it on and it's got a motion sensor in here. So when you actually touch your bow and pick it up, the sight light comes on. And then if you let it set for a while, you can program different durations, how long you want it to dwell for. It will turn itself back off. It's USB rechargeable. It's pretty slick. I really like it. You can adjust the brightness. The Elvish, sight light is the way to go. In my opinion, just again, love it. Comes with a multitude of mounts, and I got it mounted right here off of the HHA. Okay. Let's talk into stabilization. I've got some Stokerized stabilizers on this bow. The back one is a 6-inch. The front one is an 8-inch. They each have, I believe, an ounce and a half. I think these are half-ounce weights, so an ounce and a half of weight on the end of each. The back bar is mounted onto a Redline stabilizer mount. I really like the Redline. It's got detents. Everything locks in. You can get it positioned exactly like you want. I've got a Stokerized one too. I don't really care for it. There's no like detent spaces, and I can never get it to lock in the way I wanted it to. But yeah, the Redline one is pretty slick. Up here, what you see right here is a leftover product from the old days. They don't make it anymore, unfortunately. And this is for the Magnus bow pod. And so I use this when I am, say, hunting on the ground, or if I would be in a box blind and I want my bow to be propped up. You got two legs that screw together just like an arrow and go into your quiver just like an arrow does. And then I can basically thread these in. And then my bow can just sit there like that. And it's a pretty magical setup. I wish Magnus still made it. Unfortunately, Magnus doesn't. Is what it is. I happen to have a bunch of them, and I will never get rid of them because I love it so much. Great setup. Yes, your cam does sit in the dirt, and that can be an issue for some people, and I get it. It's never been an issue for me. So, there's that. So, basically, that's my bow. I did not change out the strings. These are the factory strings from Elite. I've never had a problem with the Elite strings in the past, and I have shot Elite bows since 2009, and there was about a 2-year window the last couple of years where I was shooting Athens, but we all know what happened there. Athens went out of business, unfortunately, and so I decided to move back to Elite, even though I loved the Athens bows, but not being in business anymore, I want to go back with a company that was producing bows. So that is my actual bow setup. The thing shoots like an absolute dream. I absolutely, really have been enjoying it. This Elite Ethos, these cams, these have the performance cams on it, and they are a little more aggressive than the older Elites of the past. But overall, I do like it. I've got the let-off set at 90%. They give me a little more valley in there. And just overall, it's just been a really well-performing bow, and I'm looking forward to getting in the woods. Actually, tomorrow, my season start. So let's set the bow down for a minute, and let's talk about the arrows and quiver system. So basically, when it comes to a quiver this year, I am using a Mountain View quiver. Used to be called, I think, a Vista One or I don't remember. Anyways, I don't know what. They renamed it because Athens owned Mountain View, or it was a sister company or some deal like that, and then they sold it, so the new company's renamed the product. But I love it. It mounts up right up here to this bar that comes out off of your bow. It's quick and easy detached with this knob right here. I really like the quiver. I think that they're built well. They're low profile. I've had this one for a couple of years. I do run foam in my quiver. They don't come with foam. I run foam in there. The one reason why I started using foam was because of my Magnus bow pod, the leg, I couldn't get it to stay up in there without foam. And then I just found that as you're beating things around, sometimes arrows slip and they don't remain seated against a rubber stop up in there. So for me, the foam, I just like it. Will technically dull your blades? Yeah, I guess, but is what it is. So that's what I'm running as far as a quiver goes. When it comes to arrows, I am running, we got some fire trucks or something going on. Hopefully you can't hear that and it's not too disturbing. As far as arrows go, I'm running the Victory V-Force V1 350 spine shafts. These are cut at about 28 1/4, I believe, from insert to the nock. And I've been running the Victory V1 arrow shafts for years. I went down this year in overall weight and everything. I was on a little bit of the mildly heavy arrow train for a while. I've gone back the other direction. We'll talk about total weight in a minute. So I went to a 350 spine over a 300 spine that I've been shooting the last couple of years. 4-inch, just generic. I buy these off of eBay. Some guy makes them wrap. And then 4 of the AAE Max Hunter vanes on here. Last year was the first year I ever ran vanes all season long. I ran the Max Hunters and I really liked them. I ran feathers ever since I started bow hunting. And as far as nocks go, these are the Halo nocks. Really, really like the Halo nocks. I ran them all last year. Never had an issue. I broke 2. Well, I broke 1 because I hit it with another arrow when I was target practicing. And then I shot a hog with one last winter, and for some reason it popped out, went flying, and I never found it. But beyond that, all the deer I killed last year, I used Halos, and I never had an issue. So really like them. I like how they turn on at the shot, and then to turn them off, you put it back on a string or a knife blade in there or something, you pinch it and pull it off, and it's off. So really like them. Now on the business end of my arrow, I am running the 100 grain, surprise, surprise here, Magnus Black Hornet Serrazer 4-blade broadheads. So obviously, if you follow my channel, you know that I've had a relationship with Magnus broadheads and Mike Son, who owns Magnus since 2009, and that's the heads I'm going to shoot. Last year I shot the new single bevel, we were testing out, great head. I'm going back to what I love, and that is the 4-blade Black Hornet Serrazer. Just a wicked head. They spin true, they fly great, and they're devastating on arrows. So where did I land as far as a total arrow setup when it comes to weight? Again, this is a 350 spine arrow with a 100 grain head on the front, and I'm right at about 426 to 427 grains per arrow, depending on which one you pick up. So I've been shooting in that 120 or 425 for many years. Always had success. Tried the heavier stuff. Ran like 525, 550 type of setups. Decided to close my pin gaps. And whitetail are not made out of armor. So going back to what I believe is a more reasonable setup for me. And the flight is great. FOC is somewhere down around 9% or so. So definitely on the lower side. But my flights have been great, and so that's what we're going with. And it's basically is the setup that I used for, I can't even remember how many years before this whole high FOC and heavy arrow craze started. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm landing this year. That's going to be my arrow setup. Okay. Put this back in the quiver before I either A, cut myself, or B, nick a string or something like that. The last component really to my archery setup this year is my release. Boom. Here's full disclosure. This is a Hotshot X-Bot. I have had a working relationship with Hotshot for the last probably 6 or so years. So obviously I don't pay for the Hotshot releases. However, I will say that once I started shooting them, I mean, this is no joke. This is really all I ever care to shoot is Hotshot releases. I love these. This is my original X-Bot that I got shortly after the X-Bot model came out. It's got dents and dings in it and stuff because I beat it to heck. That's what I do with my equipment. I've got some other Hotshot models, but this is always my go-to. I love the sear in these. I got a sear trigger, so it's so crisp and clean. Just love this release. Yeah, so that's my release. So that right there is my entire bow setup for archery hunting whitetail deer in 2024. So those you had questions, Hope that answers them. If you still have questions after that, just let me know. Reach out to me in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. Looking forward to it. My season actually starts tomorrow. It's going to be hot, but I'm going to get out there and see what we can do. So, as always, God bless. Deer seasons are finally here, people. That is so awesome. Stay safe and shoot straight this year. It's a new day in the outdoors.